Just ahead on CTV News, Maryland is under a 3-day heat advisory.
It's too hot. It's like you can barely do anything out here because it's so hot. I want to stay inside.
A federal grant is helping to bring zero-emission buses to Prince George's County. We'll have more details coming up on CTV News.
Plus, it's Money Matters Tuesday. Those stories and more. CTV News starts now.
Good evening. This is CTV News for July 9th. I'm Katara Jones.
And I'm Michaela Newton. Thanks so much for joining us. As we reach temperatures in the upper 90s this week, a heat advisory has been issued in the Washington, D.C. region. And in Prince George's County, state health officials are warning residents about the dangers of heat-related illnesses. Now, there was a spike in hospitalizations for heat-related illnesses statewide in the second half of June. Now, latest data from the Maryland Department of Health reveals the heat-related death toll has now climbed to 4. Those deaths were all recorded in Prince George's County.
If you don't have enough water, if you're not able to get into cooler environments, if you overexert yourself and don't take frequent breaks, anybody can potentially have heat-related injury or potentially death.
And a few safety recommendations coming from the state to help residents include staying hydrated, wearing loose clothing, and staying out of the heat.
Staying out of the heat can be hard to do, especially when you work outdoors. Take a look at these construction workers just off Baltimore Avenue in Hyattsville. This afternoon, once again, temps reached into the 90s. It was under constant glare of the sun. Many of us struggled to fend off the intense heat and humidity. In Mount Rainier, people took advantage of the shade from a tree. We asked a few people for their tips.
One thing you do is, which is you do, a lot of people don't like to wear t-shirts. I mean, a second shirt. You need to put on a second shirt. You're actually cooler when you do that. I learned that a long time ago in my job.
Well, it is way too hot. People need to be drinking water because you're going to get dehydrated.
You just drank like 4 glasses of water.
What are plans for the rest of the day?
Go home, stay inside, go for a run when it's cooler out.
So I'm trying to just hydrate, eat plenty of fruits, stay indoors, and limit activity until after the sun sets.
Well, we now know the name of the child who drowned in a pool in Montgomery County. 3-year-old Ace was found unresponsive in a neighborhood pool in Elmcroft Court over the weekend. Ace's family and friends gathered last night at the community pool for a balloon release. His grandfather spoke with Fox 5 and shared that he had autism. Now, Montgomery County Police reports that drowning is the leading cause of premature death for those diagnosed with autism, especially in young children.
We now know the name of the man who was fatally shot in Laurel over the weekend. The victim has been identified as 21-year-old Desmond Lowe. Prince George's police were called to the 1300 block of Mistletoe Springs Road on July 7th. When officers arrived, they found Lowe and another man in an apartment suffering from gunshot wounds. Lowe was pronounced dead on the scene. The second man was hurt but is expected to be okay. A $25,000 reward is being offered to anyone that leads to an arrest and indictment in this case. And meantime, the July 4th holiday weekend proved to be a busy time for Maryland State Police. During July 3rd through July 7th, troopers made a total of 106 DUI arrests. This is an increase from last year, as state police made 86 DUI arrests from July 3rd to the 9th of 2023. Troopers also issued more than 10,000 citations and warnings during the July 4th holiday weekend. The numbers show again an increase from last year, as state police recorded more than 8,800 citations and warnings in 2023. Meantime, law enforcement across the country responded to more than 500 shootings during the July 4th holiday weekend.
Well, the federal government has awarded a multi-million-dollar grant to PG County, providing electric vehicles for public transportation. Bryce Parker has a story.
one thing is clear. The future of public works and transportation, and particularly the future of transit in Prince George's County, looks exceptionally bright.
Today, Prince George's County accepts a $25.4 million grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation's Federal Transit Administration.
We are ushering, let me repeat that, we are ushering a new era. Together, we are changing the face of transit.
It's huge for the state. So as with any mutually beneficial partnership, everybody's got to be all in, right? So from the state, I sit on budget and taxation, I sit on the transportation subcommittees. You know, we try to find dollars that can help, and then those dollars have to be dispersed throughout the entire state. But it looks better when you have a county that's doing their part as well.
The grant will afford the county 15 new zero-emission electric vehicles, accompanied by the complete construction of an EV charging and energy management system.
The new electric buses and vans will help keep the air cleaner by reducing greenhouse gases. They're also quieter and will reduce noise pollution in communities.
The grant isn't just about shiny new buses for the county to parade around.
It's part of a larger mosaic. It's one step closer to a carbon-free future.
It also supports Governor Moore's goal to make Maryland one of the greenest states in the nation.
Transportation is our nation's largest contributor to greenhouse gases, and addressing it is a top priority when trying to deal with climate change.
It really takes leadership to address this climate crisis, and we see it both in the Biden-Harris administration, across our federal agencies, across the great state of Maryland, and of course right here in Prince George's County. We see that leadership to tackle what is an existential threat here in addressing climate change.
With Maryland being a leader in clean transportation, it is no surprise that the work being done to reduce our carbon footprint is being spearheaded right here.
I really think it's important when you talk about environmental justice that we make sure that the air that our children are breathing is clean no matter where they live.
Now, Prince George's County is one of 177 county and city councils who won this special grant from the Federal Transit Administration. So, be ready to get off one of these buses at a stop near you very soon. From Largo, I'm Bryce Parker, CTV News.
All right, Bryce, thanks so much. Well, the federal low or no emissions grant awarded to the county is part of the nation's goal of reaching zero greenhouse emissions by 2050.
And as we approach the start of a new academic year, the Prince George's County School District implements new changes to avoid another transportation disaster. According to reports, school officials briefed the county council on the district's new changes yesterday. Beginning this fall, the school system will have only 3 start times instead of 13. Also, there will only be 6 school dismissal times instead of 17. Now, in order to get the buses to schools on time, the school district has also reduced the number of bus stops.
And you're watching CTV News. I'm Michaela Newton.
And I'm Katara Jones. Still to come.
A new scam is targeting Pepco customers. What you need to know before answering the phone. We'll be right back.
After I had my accident, people told me I needed to slow down. I told them, I don't know how. I'm not only doing the things I used to do, I'm experiencing things I've only dreamed of. I have my freedom back. For the first time in a while, I can see all the colors in my life. So while some days might be harder than others, I know a place I can go where I can feel strong and supported.
Because with the help of my VA care team, I'm reaching new heights.
Take your healthcare career to new heights. Learn more at vacareers.va.gov/PSA.
Welcome back. Watch out, Pepco customers. If you've received a call from a customer service number, Pepco is saying it could be a scam. According to a Pepco spokesman, there have been a lot of common schemes that involve scammers' use of technology to replicate a company's number through caller ID. Pepco says an immediate payments request is a scam, and representatives won't ask you for personal information, such as social security numbers or bank information.
The 3-member Maryland Board of Public Works has approved a $140,000 settlement to a University of Maryland professor who she says was the victim of religious discrimination. The suit was filed on behalf of Melissa Landa, a former assistant clinical professor in the Education College. According to the suit, the university violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Landa, who identifies as Jewish, alleged she faced religious discrimination from the department leadership for a number of incidents, including publicly opposing anti-Semitism. A 2018 case filed with the EEOC found that Landa was discharged in retaliation for complaining about religious discrimination. And Governor Wes Moore calls the country's immigration system, quote, broken. During a televised interview yesterday, the governor says the United States needs a better immigration policy that doesn't, quote, leave governors responsible for creating and implementing policy. Moore also says the Maryland can't enforce immigration and customs enforcement policy because it's the federal government's responsibility.
Well, since 2014, one Bowie family has been making a big difference by educating their community on autism.
Mariah Gillette sat down with the Benjamin family to learn about their mission and nonprofit, Autism FYI.
People on the autism spectrum, they learn differently, they process information differently, and they speak or don't speak, but they connect to their world differently.
Joyce Benjamin has a close knowledge of autism. Her 2 sons, Brad and Kenny, are on the spectrum. While she's learned how to spot autism and how to interact with someone on the spectrum, she knows her sons might interact with people that don't have that same knowledge.
If you put a police officer in that situation and you can't see anything different about this person, he is going to think that they're being obstinate.
At this point, an officer might try to use force, which could cause further reaction and harm to a person with autism.
Having our children, we could just imagine what that would be like. And we had to do something. So we created Autism FYI.
The central mission of Autism FYI is providing curriculum to law enforcement, student resource officers, corrections officers, and teachers that teaches them how to interact with people on the autism spectrum through web seminars and in-person training.
And we always take our sons with us, who are now 35 and 34, and they help give and put a face and a personality with autism that is not as scary, helps decrease the officers' angst if they've never encountered someone with autism.
The Benjamin brothers live at home with their parents. Kenny, 34, has a large collection of puppets.
Auntie, just 5.
Brad is 35 and a big fan of game shows. The brothers help Joyce make greeting cards, merchandise, and ID cards for authorities to identify people with disabilities.
I think having them be part of the training is the best piece, because the teachers can ask them questions directly. And they sit and they will tell them exactly how they feel.
Over the years, the nonprofit's curriculum has evolved to help teachers interact with students in their classrooms that are on the spectrum.
So the training basically focuses on understanding what autism is, like understanding how the child appears completely as any other student in your classroom. They learn very differently, how to capitalize on their special interests. Like a lot of kids on the spectrum have something that they're very interested in, and maybe that's the focus of their math problems, or that's the focus of their writing assignments, or the focus of their reports.
The training program is available online for free, but it hasn't officially been adopted by any school district. The Benjamin family sees immense importance in their work, but they can't do it forever.
We've given ourselves 2 years to try to find someone who wants to take over and continue the mission, and we hope we find that. Otherwise, you know, we will just have to leave it for someone else to be inspired to do something.
Thank you, Mariah, for that report. A Bowie woman is arrested in connection with the fatal stabbing of her alleged sugar daddy in the district. 22-year-old Tiffany Taylor Gray is charged with first-degree murder for the death of 53-year-old Fossil Tiklamariam. Tikla Merriam's body was discovered in his apartment on the 1300 block of Peabody Street on April 5th. Police say that Gray and her accomplice, 19-year-old Audrey Miller, then cut off the victim's right thumbs to gain access to his Cash App. They then allegedly used the money to buy liquor and drugs. Miller was arrested on June 21st and also faces first-degree murder charges. Gray is in custody of the Department of Corrections and is waiting to be extradited back to the district.
Well, listen to this. A proposed literary policy in Maryland could have third graders held back for a year if they don't achieve certain reading scores on state tests or demonstrate sufficient reading skills. Now, if this policy is adopted, Maryland would join more than half of states in the U.S. with the same policy. It comes as the State Board of Education and a blueprint for Maryland's future recently voted on aggressive goals to boost student achievement for the state. And the Maryland Department of Education says they're accepting public comments on the plan until July 19th. And still to come on CTV News.
It's Tuesday, so our financial expert Ernest Burley is here to talk for another Money Matters segment.
This week we're talking about investing, when to buy or when to sell. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Garner, and I'm working with Save the Children to fight for kids' futures. Poverty impacts 11 million children in the U.S., forcing families to make impossible choices. Every day, parents in rural America are deciding between essentials just to survive: gas or groceries, lunch or laundry, rent or running water. 1 in 5 children are hungry right now because of impossible choices like these. They're more likely to start school significantly behind their peers, and they may never catch up. Growing up in West Virginia, I saw kids living with hunger and poverty, and I've seen the impact Save the Children has on their lives. They give children the nutritious food and learning opportunities they need to thrive, so families don't have to choose. To learn more about how we help kids in rural America, go to SaveTheChildren.org.
First time that I went to see him, a lot of stuff came into my mind because I wasn't prepared at all. I know the first 3 months of his life were really important, and I wanted to be there all the time for him. First time he was like, "Daddy, Daddy." That was one of his first words. He grew up so quick. He just surprised me every day. He's really smart. I really think he can be an astronaut, president. But I'm gonna support him for wherever he wants to be. Whether he wanna be a photographer, musician, whatever. As a father, I guess you don't focus on you. I put himself first. That's what a dad does.
Welcome back. It's Tuesday, so it's time for another Money Matters segment. According to a study by the University of California, Berkeley, only about 10% of traders are able to consistently make a profit and succeed as full-time traders.
Today, our financial expert, Ernest Burley, is here to talk to us about a subject many people are curious about, but many don't know where to start: investing. Mr. Burley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So before a person decides to buy a stock, what should they know and what should they do?
Right, so first of all, the stock, there's a company behind the stock, right? So there are a lot of different things to look at. You can look at the cash flow of the company, the profit margin, whether it pays a dividend or not. A lot of things to look at, but even PE ratios and all this other kind of stuff, it gets a little complicated. But here are the things I mainly look at. I look at the past performance of the stock, which past performance is no guarantee or indicator of future performance. So let's put that out there. But I still look at the past performance. I look at the current performance of the stock. I look at where I think that stock's going to go into the future based on what the market is currently doing. Because there are a lot of industries out there. You have telecom, tech, healthcare, utilities. So I look at what's going on in the economy, look at the stock, and see if that's a good fit for this moment in time.
Absolutely. So for a lot of young people who want to get into investing, what would be some of those tips for people that are just starting out?
Yeah, so That's a tough one. So like starting out, I recommend a person just get into an index fund, right? So because if you don't know what you're doing, you don't want to put all your money into a stock or various stocks that are going to not do well for you. So it's better to get into an index fund and just kind of look at that thing for a minute and do some research. Some people buy stocks from the companies they deal with a lot. They're like, oh, I shop there all the time, so let me buy stock in that company. So do some research before you get into individual stocks, because that's different than like going into an index fund or a mutual fund. You have more insulation, more protection there as opposed to an individual stock.
And say someone has an individual stock for maybe 2 years, maybe it's Tiffany's stock. They have it for 2 years, they decide, okay, I'm ready to sell. What are some of those tax implications they might face?
Right, well, it's a good thing if they held it 2 years. So when you're selling a stock, well, here's another thing. We talked about this in a previous segment. Hopefully there are no tax implications, because ideally you want to trade within a tax qualified plan. So I talk to people all the time, they're trading, and I'm like, okay, is it in an IRA? Well, no, it's just in this little investment account. Well, no, put it in an IRA. You can trade within that and have no tax implications. But if you're outside of that, sometimes people, they come to me, they have all this money because they've inherited or what have you. If you have a regular account, ideally you want to have long-term capital gains tax on the money instead of short-term capital gains tax. And the difference is short-term capital gains tax is just like ordinary income. Now talk to your tax professionals, but the current tax rate, highest tax rate, I think is almost 40%, like 37%. Long-term capital gains tax can be anywhere from 0 to 20%, so you pay much less if you hold a stock at least 1 year and a day. So hold it at least a year. If you hold it less than a year, you're going to pay short-term capital gains tax, which is a much higher tax rate.
And so is that when you should sell a stock, is towards the end?
Well, so that's a good one there too. So some people are stock huggers, they hold on to a stock forever. Some people just get rid of stocks, like the day traders we're just talking about. You hear about people always talking about they made so much money day trading. Most day traders lose money, right? So that's not, buying and selling the same day is not ideally the way to go. Some people look at this. There's a theory out there to say, once I make a certain amount in a stock, I'm going to get rid of it. So once I've made 50%, I'm out, right? It's hard to implement that though, because if you see your stock continuing to rise, you're not going to want to get up that pony, right? So, but if you just say, I'm going to pull the trigger and I know I'm not going to lose money, I've gained that amount of money, I'm going to lock it in and use it for something else, then that's what some people do. Once they get to a certain amount of gains, they sell.
And I've heard a saying that says buy low, sell high. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Right, so most people buy high and sell low because they invest on emotions. So you can't get emotional with stocks. You have to do your research and just hold it, because sometimes it's volatile. So by buy low, sell high, that means you want to buy it at a lower price than you sell it at. So if you buy it $100 a share and it goes down in value to $80 a share and you get scared, I'm going to sell, that's buying high and selling low. You want to sell it when it's above $100 a share. Just like when you buy a house, you want to sell it for more than you bought it for, right?
So you want to keep it?
Yeah, you want to keep it until it appreciates in value. Unless it's just a clunker and it's never going to recover, then you have to cut your losses at some point.
And what exactly is a dividend, and should you only invest in dividend-paying stocks?
Good question. So a dividend is basically just a company sharing their profits with their shareholders, right? So the board of directors gets together, hey, we've made this much money, we're going to share this amount of the money with our shareholders. I love dividend-paying stocks. Most of the stocks I invest in are dividend-paying, but if I'm more partial to appreciating stocks. So if it's an appreciating stock, I'm going to get on that bandwagon. Sometimes you can kill two birds with one stone. Get an appreciating stock, and it also pays a dividend. So that's killing two birds with one stone. But I'm more partial to appreciating stocks than just requiring it to be a dividend-paying stock.
All right, Mr. Burley, a lot of great information. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And individuals should contact their own financial professional and attorneys to help answer specific questions or situations before taking any financial action.
And still to come on CTV News.
Simon Buggs has our Tuesday sports page. Simon, what's going on in sports?
What's going on, people? I've got an exciting sports page for you lined up today as I highlight some local players getting the chance to represent their country. Stay right there.
Hey, bud. You still coming over? Chili's almost ready.
Great. On my way. Be there in a few.
Hey, buddy. I'm starting to get a little worried about you.
No seatbelt.
Give me a call when you get a chance. Love you.
Okay, everybody, grab a seat because it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the start of your Tuesday Sports Page. We begin with some WNBA news as Washington Mystics guard Jade Melbourne is Paris-bound as she's been named to the Olympic roster for the Australian national team. In her first season in the nation's capital, Melbourne is averaging 6 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 dimes off the bench for the Mystics. Melbourne is the third Mystics player, joining Julie Van Loo and Aaliyah Edwards to represent their respective countries. The Olympic women's basketball tournament begins on July 28th. And sticking with basketball news, congratulations to recent UMD transfer Christina Dolce as she will compete with Team USA in the FIBA 3-on-3 Nations League America Conference. This year's USA Nations League team features NCAA athletes and they will compete in Mexico City. The Nations League tournament will feature 13 conferences from Europe, Africa, Asia, North America, South America, and the Asia Pacific. Dolce is a talented player as last season for Villanova, she put up numbers of 8 points and 9 boards, which was a team high. She also led the Big East in blocks with over 2 a game. The Americas Conference will feature 6 3-game tournaments over a 7-day span from July 22nd to the 28th. Dolce and the rest of the Nations League team will have training camp from July 18th to the 20th before traveling to Mexico. Now to the world of college baseball, Terps utility player Chris Hakopian's freshman season was one for the books. And he racked up another postseason honor as he was named a freshman All-American by D1 Baseball. Hakopian finished his first season in College Park, batting .325 to go along with 10 doubles, a triple, 15 home runs, and 42 RBIs. And the Maryland native's 15 homers were tied for the second most by a freshman in the program's history. Along with being named a freshman All-American, Hakopian was also named a second-team All-Big Ten and was a member of the All-Big Ten freshman team. His play played a big part in the Terps finishing the season with 34 wins, which was tied for the 6th most in the program's history. Sticking with baseball news, the Bowie Bay Sox continue their road trip tonight as they will take the diamond against a familiar foe in the Altoona Curve. The game begins at 6 o'clock. The Bay Sox affiliate, the Baltimore Orioles, will also be in action tonight. The Cubs will be in town to take on the Birds at Camden Yards at 6:35. And finally, the Washington Nationals will also be in action tonight as they will be in New York matching up against the Mets. The two teams will play at 7:10. And that wraps up your Tuesday Sports Page. Simon Buggs, CTV Sports.
And now a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight will be mostly cloudy out. Tomorrow we will have a chance of showers and thunderstorms, but it will be hot, hot, hot. And we're expected to reach a high of 95.
And Thursday, those storms continue, and we're looking at a high of 92 and a low of 75. Friday, same rain, different clouds. Expect a high of 83 to kick off the weekend.
And now for our community calendar. Tomorrow evening, the Riversdale House Museum is kicking off their Jazz on the Lawn series.
From 7 to 8 p.m., you can enjoy the smooth and relaxing sounds of musical encounters, musical programming for the young at heart. But for more information, make sure you contact that number right there on your screen.
And that wraps up CTV News for now. Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good night.
My name is Irene. My job is community school coordinator. My mom taught us that it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can always find a way to help. We started the pantry because the needs were so great. We're very fortunate to have the food bank just a few miles down. I just want our kids to experience what other kids experience and learn to say, what do I want to be when I grow up? And not worry about food.